Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. The 1963 spy film From Russia with Love was the second in the James Bond series, as well as Sean Connery's second time to play the role of Agent 007. The film was directed by Terrence Young and produced by Albert Broccoli and Harry Saltzman. Following the success of the first film, Dr. No, United Artists greenlit a sequel and also doubled the budget that was available to the producers. In addition to filming on location in Turkey, the action scenes were shot at Pinewood Studios. Production ran over budget and over schedule and was rushed to finish by its scheduled October '63 release date. It was a critical and commercial success. It took in more than $78 million in worldwide box office receipts. The movie is considered one of the best entries into the series. The storyline goes that Spectra has hatched a plan to steal a decoder, which will access Russian state secrets and unbalance the world order. It's then up to James Bond to locate the device first, but in doing so, he must confront and deal with the ruthless Rosa Klebb, who's a former KGB agent, all the while as Bond romances a stunning Soviet agent. As he realizes he's being lured into a trap, he'll need all of his cunning to triumph over the evil Spectra. The film introduces several common things which would become essential elements of the Bond series. Things like a pre-title sequence, the Blofeld character, a secret weapon gadget for Bond, a helicopter sequence that was repeated in every subsequent Bond film except for The Man with the Golden Gun, a theme song with lyrics, and the line, "James Bond will return or be back," in the credits. Although uncredited, the actor who played number one was Anthony Dawson. He had played Professor Dent in the previous Bond film, Dr. No, and he also appeared in several other of Terrence Young's movies. In the end credits, Blofeld is credited with a question mark, but all of his lines in the film were completely redubbed in the final cut. Peter Burton was unavailable to return as Major Boothroyd, so Desmond Llewellyn, a Welsh actor, accepted the part. Screen credit for Llewellyn was omitted at the opening of the film and is reserved for the exit credits, where he is credited simply as Boothroyd. Llewellyn's character is not referred to by his name in dialogue, but M does introduce him as being from Q Branch. Llewellyn remained as the character, better known as Q, in all but one of the series' films, until his death in 1999. Quite a few actresses were considered for the role of Tatiana, but eventually they ended up choosing the 1960 Miss Universe runner-up, Daniela Bianchi, who was Sean Connery's choice for the role. In taking the role, she started taking English classes to prepare for it, but the producers ultimately chose to have her lines redubbed by British stage actress Barbara Jefford in the final cut. The scene in which Bond finds her in his hotel bed was used for Bianchi's screen test for the movie, with someone else standing in as Bond. That scene later became the traditional screen test for prospective James Bond actors and Bond girls. In her initial scene with Klebb, Tatiana refers to her training for the ballet, making a reference to the actress's actual background. While being a guest star on The Tonight Show, Robert Shaw said that when he was filming the movie, he had to stand on a wooden crate when filming scenes opposite Sean Connery, because he was 4 inches shorter than Connery was. And he looks amazingly different in this film. I think it's the blonde hair that does it. It's hard to imagine this actor going on to play the part of the famed shark hunter in Jaws. Now, during shooting, the helicopter that carried director Terrence Young while they were filming a sequence crashed over water, trapping him below the surface for a considerable time in an air bubble inside the copter's canopy. He was rescued and then immediately went back behind the camera with his arm in a sling. The brutal fight that takes place in the train compartment between Bond and Donald Grant only lasts for a few minutes on screen, but this sequence took 3 weeks to film, with almost all of it being performed by the actors rather than doubles. Pedro Armendariz was terminally ill during the entire filming of the movie. He had cancer, which was likely contracted due to his filming the 1956 movie The Conqueror, all done in the Utah desert near a U.S. nuclear test site. He accepted this role partially to provide financial security for his wife. The shooting schedule was actually altered to film his scenes while he was physically able to do them. Toward the end of the filming process, some of the scenes required director Terrence Young to double for the actor in some of the long shots. 1 month after all the scenes were completed, he took his own life in a Los Angeles hospital. Then President John F. Kennedy listed this book as being one of his top 10 favorite novels of all time. And the movie itself is actually thought to be the last film that JFK ever saw in a private screening at the White House, November 20th, 1963. Now let's talk about some of the girls in the movie. Martine Beswick and Eliza Gurr play two gypsies that fight it out in a gypsy camp for the love of a man. These two actresses hated each other and never once got along on the set. When they engaged in that catfight scene, the two were really viciously going at each other. And the director really encouraged this because it really is a realistic-looking fight, because it was real. It said that they had terrible clashes on the set and that Martine was disgusted with her, and she had a lot of anger built up before the fight scene ever came about. They rehearsed the fight scene for 3 weeks, but when they got to shoot it, it didn't need rehearsing. They were really fighting, making it one of the classic scenes in the film. Now, the other classic beauty that's front and center in the film is Daniela Bianchi, and she is a classic beauty. But the director, Terrence Young, didn't like her legs at all. They just didn't look sexy enough on film. So he ended up using a stand-in for the scene where Bond spies on the Russian embassy with a periscope as Tatiana walks around with just the beautiful legs in view of the camera. Go back and watch this great Bond film. It's a good one. I think it's one of my favorite Bond films. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.